In this video, you will learn how to multiply a monomial and a binomial. First, we are going to learn how to multiply by a monomial. A monomial just means that it has one term. Mono means one. You can see how each of these has a monomial on the outside of the parentheses. When multiplying by a monomial, it's really just using the distributive property and distributing whatever's on the outside, the monomial, to everything on the inside. So for the first one, I'm going to take 2 times the 3x squared, which is 6x squared, 2 times the negative 4x, which is negative 8x, and 2 times the 5, which is plus 10. This is really nothing new. It's mostly what we've done before with the single number on the outside of the parentheses. When we get down to the second one, it's a little bit different because this time we have a p and a q along with the 2. So when you have this, you have to think about your exponent rules. So if I'm taking 2 times 2pq times 2p, really what you're doing, I'm going to write this out just to show the parts of it. I'm taking the 2 times the 2, which is 4, the p times the p. So if I multiply a p times a p, it would give me p squared. And then the q would just be by itself. Then I'm also going to multiply the 2pq times the q. Now make sure that you remember that that's a negative. So I'm going to put minus 2p, and then the q is going to be multiplied by the other q because they are the same base. So I'd end up with q squared. And that would be my final answer. Finally, we're going to look at the last one, which is this monomial of 3x on the outside. And I'm going to distribute the 3x to everything on the inside. So multiplying the coefficients 3 and 2 times each other to get 6. The x times x to the third power will give me x to the fourth. 3x times negative 4x squared is negative 12x to the third. 3x times x will give me 3x squared. And then 3x times the negative 1 is negative 3x. For these three, why don't you go ahead and try them yourself on a piece of paper, write them down, and then once you're ready, turn the video back on and see if you got them right. Take a look and see if you got these three answers. Important things to note: make sure that these exponents are matching what I have. Really, you got to remember that if I'm taking 3ab times 5a squared, the only variable that's going to change the exponents will be the a, because this is a to the power of 1 and a to the power of 2, and that's how I get a to the power of 3. Especially when you get down to these that have several different variables and exponents, you really got to be careful about which exponent is going to be affected when you do the multiplication. Next, we're going to move into multiplying binomials. Multiplying binomials just means that we're going to be multiplying binomials. This is a binomial because it has two terms. 2x is a term, 3 is a term. X is a term, negative 4 is a term. So this is a binomial, this is a binomial. There's a couple different ways that you can do this. The first way I'm going to show you is by using a diagram, or what I oftentimes call the box method. So when I set this up, I'm going to make a box. Since it's a binomial, it's going to be a 2 by 2 box. On one side, I'm going to put one of the binomials, 2x and 3. On the other side, I'll put the other one. It doesn't matter which one goes on the top and which one goes on the bottom, but you do have to make sure that you look at the signs. This was an x minus 4, so when I wrote it down, I needed to make sure it was a negative 4. Then I'm going to multiply it. It's basically like finding area. So I'm going to be taking this 2x times the x, which is going to give me 2x squared. Then I'm going to take 2x times negative 4, which is negative 8x. 3 times x is 3x. And then 3 times negative 4, which is negative 12. Then the really nice thing about this box method is that if I have them in order of powers, the diagonals are going to line up and my like terms will be diagonal. So when I write this out, I'm going to have 2x squared. I'm going to combine those like terms of 3x and negative 8x, which is negative 5x, and then negative 12. And this would be my final answer. One other way that you oftentimes hear teachers and other people talk about is the FOIL method. FOIL is just an acronym to help you multiply everything you need to multiply. So FOIL is going to stand for first, outer or outside, inner or inside, and last. So if you want to maybe write this down in your notes, you could pause the video and get the example and make sure you write down what FOIL stands for. But I'm going to walk you through how this works. So in step 1, you're going to multiply the first two terms. So for this one, that's an x and an x, which gives us this x squared. Then I'm going to look at the outside terms, or the outer. These are going to be the two, the first one and the last one. So the ones on the outside of the binomials. So when I take x times 2, I get 2x. Then I'm going to look at the inside, which is going to be the two that are right in the middle of the binomials, which is 3 and x. So 3 times x, which is 3x. And then the last terms are going to be the last terms of the binomial. So 3 and 2, when I multiply them, I get 6. So then I'm just going to put it all together. So when you list it out, here's the x squared from the first, the 2x from the outer, the 3x from the inner, and the 6 from the last. When I combine my like terms, I end up with x squared plus 5x plus 6. This is just another method. It's really like using the distributive property, but it's just a way to keep track to make sure that you multiply everything that needs to be multiplied by each other. Once again, if you think that this would be something good to put in your notes so that you remember how to use the FOIL method, I would add that right now before moving on. So here are two examples. I'm going to solve one using the box method. I'm going to solve one using the FOIL method so that you can see both of them worked out. For this first one, I'll go ahead and use the box method. So I'm going to set it up. First binomial I'm going to put over here, so x minus 5, so x and a negative 5. The second one is 3x plus 2. Now I have it set up and I just have to do the multiplication. So x times 3x is 3x squared. X times 2 is 2x. Negative 5 times 3x is negative 15x. And then negative 5 times 2 is negative 10x. And then remember how the x's are like terms, the diagonals, I can combine those together. And I'm going to end up with 3x squared minus 13x when I combine, minus 10. And that would be my final answer. For the second one, I will use the FOIL strategy, or the FOIL method. I'm going to first multiply the first two numbers of each binomial. So 3x squared times x is going to give me 3x. X squared times x is x to the third power. Then I'm going to multiply the outside. So I'm going to take the 3x squared times the negative 5. Always make sure that you look at the sign in front. 3x squared times negative 5 is negative 15x squared. Then I'm going to look at the inside, which is going to be 4 and the x, the two numbers in the middle of the binomials. So 4 times x will give me 4x. Finally, I'm going to look at the last two. 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. So then the final thing I want to make sure that is there is nothing that I can combine together, and that it is order of powers, where it's from the highest power to the lowest power. Right here I can see that there aren't any that I can combine, so my answer is just going to be what I have written down already. I'll just rewrite it, and that would be how I solved it using the FOIL method. I would like you to try this one on your own. You can choose to use the box method, you can choose to use the FOIL method. You could try both of them just to see how they both work. But I want you to pause the video, write it down, try it out, try one or both of the methods, and then turn it back on to see if you got the correct answer. Check and see how you did. I showed both ways. I showed how you could use the box method and how you could use the FOIL method. You can see that no matter which method I choose to use, I'm going to get the same answer. Both of these answers are matching. So you can have a favorite method. It'd be good to know both, but you can definitely have one that you use more often. So hopefully now you know how you can multiply by both a monomial and how you can multiply binomials.